In this short video presentation, I'm going to talk about politeness. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about negative politeness, positive politeness, maxims of politeness, and Lakoff's rules of rapport. When linguists studying pragmatics refer to politeness, they're thinking specifically about the role of language in being friendly and showing a positive attitude towards another person. One concept that we're going to discuss, or that's important to discuss, is face and politeness in face. Face refers to the public self-image, the sense of self, of the people that we address. And you don't want to threaten their face, so beware of FTAs, or face-threatening acts. Faces can be threatened. When another person has done something that challenges or questions or undermines your self-image, or something that brings their self-image in conflict with yours, this is a face-threatening act, or an FTA for short. One strategy for avoiding face-threatening acts are positive politeness strategies. So this isn't one strategy, it's a set of strategies. These positive politeness strategies, emphasize closeness, they claim common ground, they seek agreement, they avoid disagreement, and sometimes they even involve pseudo-agreement. Pseudo-agreement would be where somebody says something that you disagree with and you say, yes, that's really important to consider, but, and you disagree, well establishing some pseudo-agreement in order to save their face. Another set of strategies for avoiding face-threatening acts are called negative politeness strategies. These strategies involve ways to avoid face-threatening acts not by emphasizing closeness, but by lessening the extent to which you're imposing, for example. So let's say you're going to visit a friend, or you're going to a friend's town for work, and you tell them you're coming and that you'd love to have coffee, and they ask where you're staying. You might, and you don't want to impose on them, so you say something like, well, I'll have to look for a couch to crash on. That would be an indirect speech act of a sort. You're bringing up the topic and you're waiting for them to invite you. Another one might be hedging. Do you think it would be possible for me to crash on your couch? Not, can I crash on your couch, but do you think it would be possible? Or would it be a problem? Or, I know you're really busy with work. Do you think it would be possible for me to crash on your couch? And this is hedging. Another negative politeness strategy would be a negative question. Instead of, can I crash on your couch? You say, you don't have any room on your couch, do you? And they can easily answer no, agreeing with you that they don't have any room. So refusing you a place on their couch would involve agreeing with you, and that lessens the face-threatening act. A fourth negative politeness strategy might be minimizing the imposition. So you say, hey, look, I'd really like to crash on your couch. It's only for one night, and I'd head out right away in the morning. So that would be a negative politeness strategy, minimizing the imposition. So, some politeness principles. One politeness principle is tact. We want to minimize the cost to the other person while maximizing the benefit to the other. Another is generosity. This involves minimizing the cost to the other while maximizing the cost to self. A third is approbation, minimizing dispraise of another while maximizing praise of the other. Modesty is minimizing praise of the self while maximizing dispraise of self. Agreement, minimizing disagreement between the self and other, maximizing agreement between the self and other. And finally, sympathy, minimizing antipathy between self and other, while maximizing sympathy between the self and other. So these are a set of politeness principles. I mentioned before that there are two principal ways of avoiding face-threatening acts. One is recognizing the hearer's independence, maintaining distance, and avoiding imposing. This is called negative politeness, which respects the hearer's negative face. So negative politeness respects the hearer's negative face. The second principal way of avoiding a face-threatening act is to do the opposite. You recognize the hearer's need to be part of the group, to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, to be accepted, and to be liked. And this is called positive politeness, which attends to the hearer's positive face. So negative politeness attends to their negative face, positive politeness attends to their positive face. Let's see how some of these might work out. It's summertime when I'm recording this, so it's easy to imagine that you are visiting some family in another city. Let's imagine you're visiting family in another city and you aren't sure if they would feel comfortable with you and your family staying in their house for the weekend of the visit. How can you respect their independence, their negative face, their independence and distance, and avoid imposing, and still figure out if they would let you stay? One way would be to ask indirectly. You could, when discussing your plans, say, "We haven't decided where to stay yet. We were thinking of," and insert the name of a chain brand hotel here. And this would be negative politeness. You're asking indirectly. Asking indirectly would respect the distance, the family member's distance, and this is negative politeness. Your family member can turn his or her negative face toward you without embarrassment or conflict. So in response to this indirect speech act in which you say, "We haven't decided where to stay yet, we were thinking of staying at the Hilton," your family member could say, "Great idea, they have amazing rates on Thursdays." Or your family member could say, "Nonsense, you'll stay with us." Imagine, on the other hand, that a sister was coming to visit you and your relatives in the town where you live. And imagine this is a sister that you like and who you know would be happy to stay at your house. You might call her up and say, stay at our place, I insist." Now this is a fairly direct speech act. It's an imperative sentence used to command something. It's potentially face-threatening to command something of another person, but you're inviting this family member to be part of a group. So it's addressing this family member's positive face. And you could dress it up in positive politeness, emphasizing the relationship, emphasizing the connection, emphasizing the membership of this sister in the group that's called your family, by saying something like, "Come on, you're my sister, stay at our place, I insist, we all insist." So this would be a potentially face-threatening act dressed up in positive politeness, emphasizing the need that all people have to belong, to be part of a group. These expressions of closeness and welcome are positive politeness, and they pad the potentially face-threatening act insisting that she stay. Politeness also exists in context. Some of the contexts that we'd be talking about would be situational context, social context, or cultural context. Let's take an example of borrowing money. Borrowing $50 from someone who has millions of dollars might be very different than borrowing $50 from a cousin who's out of work. So that would be a situational issue. Borrowing money from a neighbor is different than borrowing money from a boss, which is different than borrowing money from a family member, which is different than borrowing money from the person who works at the grocery store. So this is social context. The social relationships are important when it comes to something like borrowing money. Finally, there's the cultural context. Borrowing money might be handled very differently in different social and cultural groupings. Perhaps in some cultures it's a fairly normal thing to do. Perhaps in other cultures it's something you simply don't do or don't talk about. Now, Robin Lakoff has some rules of rapport. These 3 rules are: don't impose, keep your distance, give options, and let the other person have a say, and be friendly, maintain camaraderie. So don't impose, keep your distance. Asking someone if they would like coffee or tea, instead of insisting they have a coffee or tea, would be a way of not imposing. Would you like some coffee or some tea? Giving options. Would you like coffee or tea gives options, but letting the other person decide. If somebody asks you, "Would you like coffee or tea?" and you answer, "I'll have whatever you're having," you're giving them options. You're letting the other person make the decision. You're letting the other person have their say. So this provides them with options. Answering, "I'll have whatever you are having," would also be a way of maintaining camaraderie, emphasizing the connection. We're having the same thing. You're having coffee, I'm having coffee. We're sharing an experience together. So that would be another way of being polite. So you can see how these three rules might apply to a number of situations, some of which you might be able to draw upon in your own life.